Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Good morning, Mechwarriors and Fellow Gamers. Welcome back to Commander Hollow's Mech Bay. I'm Commander Hollow. Here we share fun, effective, and low-cost painting styles for Battletech miniatures and other games. But mostly Battletech, because that's what I like to play. Today, we're going to work on adding some detail to our weapons, to the Jumpjets, and to the Cockpits. We've been working on the Quickdraw here, and this unit is it's going to be part of the 1st Ghost Regiment for the Draconis Combine. So I've had a lot of fun painting these guys. I really like how this Quickdraw is just shaping up. I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's finished. Now, these units are a little bit different, so before we get into the painting, we're going to talk about different weaponry techniques, weapon coloring techniques, and different cockpit techniques. So, move these guys to the side here. And we have here the Sagittaire. I like to write the name of the units on the bottom. It helps. I picked this unit out because it has a variety of different weapons on it. You can see different effects that we've created. When doing the lasers, I like to, and I think a lot of other players like to do this too, they tend to use different colors to indicate the different size of the laser, whether it's small, medium, and large. And the trend I've generally seen is small lasers are red, medium lasers are green, and large lasers are blue or purple. And I suspect that this is done subconsciously by a lot of players, or even consciously, to correlate to the wavelengths of different colors. Red has a shorter wavelength than green. The green has a shorter wavelength than blue. And, I'm certainly not an expert on light, on optics, or anything like that. So, but it seems to fit, and it's a pretty popular approach to it. Now with these, I used a base color of each weapon in there. Let's get something so we can point with it. I put a base of red. Excuse me while I bump the camera. Base of red, a base of green, base of blue. And then over top of it, I used a metallic paint. This is the blue metallic acrylic paint. And the reason I did that is it does a great job of picking up the light as you move around the unit, as the unit moves itself around. And I think in contrast to the matte finish of the rest of the unit, it implies there's a laser optic inside here. Just gives it a more dynamic look. Some people like to do jeweling, where they will they'll create the visual effect from a different approach. Jeweling is really more popular with cockpits. So let's talk about cockpits here. You can see with this, I also used a metallic paint on the cockpit. As you can see, it reflects the light as we move it. And, it's not 100% how glass would behave, but I like how that looks. I like how this looks when it's on a board, when it's moving around, because it will pick up light from different angles. And this is a very This is a very kind of a basic scheme from one of my larger forces. I think I've got like 4 companies in this scheme. So like that. Now, here's another example of, I think this is another one where I did with a base of blue, and then I used the metallic blue over top of it. And the curve of this one of the Battlemaster, I think, is really conducive to using the more reflective metallic paint, because you can see the light will bend and move around on it. It clearly is behaving differently than than the matte paint. And oddly enough, when I pulled this out as an example, I realized I never did any coloring on the lasers. So we're going to keep this Battlemaster out. We're going to give him a little touch up later on. Now let's see, what's another example here. This is this Wolverine here. I did this, you can see there's 2 different colors of green inside here. I've got a darker green as the base, and then I did a lighter green to help imply depth in it. And over top of that, I used a glaze. Let's see if I can find it here. This is some fun stuff. This is Folk Art Color Shift Dragon Flash, and I saw Dragon Flash. I couldn't help myself. Said, "Yep, this is going on my first Sword of Light units." And what this does, it doesn't totally. It kind of tints whatever you put it over top of. Unlike the blue and the red metallic paint we just looked at. This glaze, it's a gloss metallic acrylic paint, but you add a little water to it and it's nice and thin, and so it'll create that reflection of light when it moves around, but it still lets you see through it to see kind of whatever patterns you painted up underneath it. That's very fun. I enjoy that one. Now here, this Cyclops. This is an example of something a little bit different. This is from DCMS Otomo. And what I did here, I used a purple, a darker purple underneath, then a little line of lavender, and then this lighter blue on top. And I used just a small little dot. You can see it reflecting here. Just a small little dot of a metallic. I think it was Sea Breeze or something. Let me see if I can find that one. Sea Mist Pearl. Metallic acrylic paint. And I did that to just grab a little light at the top, to give the impression of the light winking off of this round cockpit here. And I went with a Sea Mist metallic. It's still kind of in the blue range. I don't know, I was trying something that I saw. I thought it would be fun. And then, since we're talking about it, I might as well talk about it. With the Atlas here, went a little more subtle. And this is just some vibrant orange in there. Nothing too fancy about it, just some orange that's deep set in with this black all around it to imply the depth and the armor paneling of the skull on the front. Nothing reflective, just just that bright burning orange and the deep set in there. You know, so there's a lot of different approaches to how you can do your cockpits. Let's talk about the scheme for these guys. Now, with these, you know, the Chameleon was my test run here, and that came out really purple. Obviously, it's a very big cockpit, so, you know, there's a lot of room there for the paint to show off. It really jumps out. And I like it. I think the blue, the purple with the slight blue outline, you can't really see it too well here. Shows up a little bit better, I think, on this guy. The Katana, well, the Crockett, but the Crockett and the Katana are the same thing. If I remember, the SLDF gave the Draconis Combine a bunch of mechs at one point. Oh, excuse me, it was either the SLDF or it was Comstar. Might have been Comstar. And they liked the Crockett so much they renamed it the Katana. Because, of course, they did. So this was a combination of, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah. This, and I guess we're going to start talking about the difference between these units and kind of the different theme I've got going here. This, I used neon paint to be black light reflective. So I used this multi-surface folk art black light purple. Really, you really need a couple of layers of it. This one comes out, you know, when you're painting it on black, it comes out a little thin. Even if you're painting it on white, it comes out a bit thin, and you need to kind of build it up a little bit. You don't want it to glop, so you want to take your time. And then just a little outline at the edges with the acrylic, or the matte acrylic paint in neon blue. And then over top of that, I used, once it's dried, I use a glaze, this folk art dragonfly glaze, which is a color shifting violet, blue, green shift. And they got another one. They got a couple different gold, red, violet shift. That has a nice look to it too. And again, these just give they can make the cockpits or even the weapons a little more dynamic. You know, so as they move around, it'll pick up different colors. I like to use this also on PPCs as well. Do a little blue in there, and then put some of this in there. So as it's moving around, it'll wink in different colors. And it just implies that it's, you know, either charging, about to fire, or, you know, gives it more personality. Part of the reason I like this more than the standard cockpit jeweling is cockpit jeweling is, in my opinion, kind of it's a forced perspective technique. You know, if you look at it from one direction, you're implying the shadow is definitely coming from this direction, and the light's definitely coming from this direction to hit the spot. And I think, you know, they can look great for photos. It's wonderful. You know, with photos, that's a still of what the unit looks like. When you're playing and the unit's moving around on the table and you're moving around and changing position, you know, with these other techniques, with the reflective metallic or the reflective glazes, the cockpit will kind of sparkle as you're moving around because you change positions, the lights will stay where they are, or the unit will change position. It's just what I prefer to do. But you know, you do what you want to do, what you think is going to look good. Now, another reason I'm using the neon paints here is with these guys, because they're kind of a Yakuza group, the 1st Ghost Regiment. I wanted to give it sort of a little bit of a cyberpunk feel. A little throwback to the 80s where the Yakuza was a little more common of a theme in some films. 80s and early 90s. So I'm doing these in, I'm using the neon paints for the weapons and the cockpits, so that when we turn on a black light, you know, we can have a simulated night game under black lights, and the cockpit will have a glow to it, as though, you know, the Mechwarrior inside has the lights on, and the lasers will have a glow to them, you know, like they're about ready to fire or they just fired. Even the Jumpjets, as you can see here, we have a standard red as a base. The red is not neon. This is a engine red, folk art engine red, and then just a little bit, just a little touch of neon orange. And that gives it, we'll do a test when we finish the painting here. And you'll see that it gives it a nice glow, to imply those Jumpjets are warming up. All right, so with that, let's get into it and start painting up these guys. So to start, since it's going to be since we're going to have to do a couple layers of it, we're going to start with the base of purple for the cockpit. Let's zoom out here as we do some prep work. I still have some black paint from the last video. We're just going to turn around our paint tray and give it a good shake. And I think we talked about folk art products before. They come out a bit thicker, you know, so you get a lot of pigment in each bottle because it's so thick. You only need a little bit because we're not covering a whole big surface here. Now with this, we definitely want it to be the right consistency. We don't want it to be really thin and runny. And we want to make sure it's not too thick so it won't create big globs or anything. But we definitely don't want that super thin that we had for the black. Because with this, we really, we're going to be doing detail work. So we want this paint to sit exactly where we put it. It has a nice purple color. Seeing a little bit of runniness, so let's mix it up some more. All right, that'll work. Okay. Now then. Okay, now we're just going to use a little bit in there. And going over this. You see it is barely changing the color of the black. We want to be really careful. Again, slow down, take your time. There's no rush. Really want to avoid touching the sides as much as possible. But if we make a mistake, we can always go back and just touch it up a bit. That's okay. Now I find it's good to not even, you don't even want to necessarily go right to the edge. It's nice to have a little bit of a separation between the edges of the glass and what you can call, I don't know, the support pieces. Now I did that first because, like I said, we're going to be doing a couple layers, and so we're going to give that a chance to dry. While it's drying, we're going to move on and we're going to do the green lasers. So these are medium lasers on the Quickdraw, so we're going to be using the neon green. And give that a good shake. Okay. Just a little bit in there. Normally, while we're mixing this up, and normally with red lasers, or with the short lasers, I will use a red with a little metallic on top of it. But there is no neon red that I've been able to locate. Haven't really looked super hard. There's probably a neon red somewhere. The closest I've found is a nice magenta. And you can see on the chameleon, you know, that's what we've got. We have kind of a, well, we'll zoom that in. We have these kind of pinkish, which, you know, I'd say is fun. It goes with the purple and the green on that unit. You know, really the neon on this is meant to be, you know, an accent to the unit. We're still trying to keep it predominantly ghost gray. So we got a nice mix on that green. And we're going to very carefully going to drop a little bit into that gun barrel. Being very careful to only put it on the inside of the barrel. And if at all possible, we want to leave a little bit of the black outline. A little bit too much. And that's the thing, you definitely want to wipe your brush off when you load the paint on it, because there we go. Now, neon paint, it loves the light, and it will you really don't even need to do much to it, because man, it just takes that light and just, it will reflect back as much as it can. It's very vibrant. Now, I'm not, in gameplay, I'm not a huge fan of rear-mounted weapons. Personally, I think it's usually a waste of BV, battle value. Because weapons aimed at the back. I mean, really, the main thing is you don't want people getting behind you. That's, so having weapons in the rear is, I guess it's a form of insurance, in case they do get behind you. You can surprise them. And the Quickdraw has the arm flip option where you can just totally flip the arms over and hit them with all 4 of the medium lasers. But then you're exposed, then they're taking shots at your rear unit, the rear of your unit. I don't like to, I won't usually try to let people get behind me. But that's what's on the unit. That's how this unit is made. So that's, we want to be true to it as much as possible. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and do another quick pass with the purple. Just want to build this up a little bit more. Again, just taking our time. Looks like there we go. And it's starting to get purpley. All right, I'm going to let that dry a bit, and we're going to do some jump jets. So, jump jets, we're going to start with that deep red base inside of it. Man, that folk art, that is some thick stuff. Look at just sitting up there. So you definitely want to break it up, and oh, that's a bit more zoomed out than we needed. And you can see it's still pretty thick. All right. Well, that might have been more water than we wanted. Yeah, that is more water than we wanted. Look at that. When you're working with really small amounts, it can be challenging to get the exact, the right ratio, but it's an advantage to working with the less expensive paint. It can really stretch. So you don't need to be afraid to add a little more. can see it's holding some bubbles too, you can see. And you want to make sure, as much as possible, try to work those out, because that's a sign that it's still very, a bit thick, a bit viscous, if it's trapping air in there. So we have way more red than we need. But that's okay. That's okay. All right, now. I see we've got, let's go ahead and zoom in again. Looks like we got some red on me. Oh no. Clean that up a little bit. Yeah. It's paint. Sometimes it's messy. And that's all right. This stuff cleans up pretty easily. Just a little soap and water. All right. Do a little flip. You can see we've got that dark black, the matte black that we painted into the Jumpjets here. And that is where we're going to put the red. And with the red, we want to just have kind of a glowing, we want to imply that it was very toasty, that it's glowing warm, but only inside. Now this is an area that probably won't get seen very much. But if it is seen, people sometimes, it's pretty common, you have a game and you're playing with other players who like to paint. People will take time to look at your unit, they'll look at theirs. Not really in a competitive way. I think a lot of people that I've talked to, they're really interested in seeing other people's approaches. They want to see, what have you done? I'd say more often than not, they're looking for inspiration or maybe even tips of, what's a good technique to create different effects. I look at that a lot. I look at other people's work and see what they're doing, and I think to myself, that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to try that. So that was a big inspiration of why I decided to make some videos. Was hoping that, figured, just, hey, other people help me out. I asked questions. I watched other videos. I still do. There's a lot to learn when it comes to painting, and there's still a lot that I'm trying to learn. So this is, I think, the third coat of this purple, and it is really starting to show more, which is great. I will say that of all of the different neon blacklight reactive paints, this purple I think it was the first one I bought, and oddly enough, it's one of the less reactive. It's more subtle. Okay. That purple's really starting to show, which is nice. All right. Now, do more of the jump jets. So I'm kind of going back and forth between these different sections, and it's largely just to give the different bits time to dry before applying the next coat. This green, though, you can see it's nice and vibrant. The green of the lasers, I don't know that needs another coat. I think that looks pretty good. So now we're going to use the neon orange. Use that for the jump jets as well. And this, I don't think I'm going to dilute this down because I want to give it just one quick little dot right there. Now let's zoom this in. So we've just got some heat way up inside that. And again, you know, it's something that most of the time won't even be visible. You'll know it's there, but other players will probably not know. Unless he gets hit and he gets laid down. Or if they're just, hey, check it out. Something I like to do, I will usually take photos of units once they're completed. And I'll do it from a really low angle, so the camera's actually down here, kind of from the point of view of a pedestrian viewing them, at least as much as possible to get that angle to imply height of the unit. And, when you're looking at it from that low, you'll get a little wink of that color. So, all right. Now we're going to take a little break to let the purple dry more, and then we're going to move on to our next steps. Okay, we're back. I think we've given that enough time to dry. So we're going to go ahead and start mixing up some of this blue. Change out the palette to rinse that off. All right, now this we're going to use very sparingly. I've found that this blue, this neon blue from Craftsmart it can really pick up the black light. And compared to the subtleness of the purple, we don't want to necessarily overpower it. So what we're going to do, we're going to put just do a little trace of an outline as best we can around the bottom and sides of the cockpit here. And that'll do two things. One, it'll brighten the purple around it by giving it a lighter but complementary outline. It'll pick up more of the light. And two, when we do have this under a black light, that blue will glow quite a bit and kind of imply, some directional lighting maybe from from the control board inside the unit. All the computer equipment. Pardon me, just get a little coffee. Alright, now we can always add more. You can always go back and change. We're going to change the angle on this just to, for a little more comfort. Okay. Now, just a little bit in there. Alright, I think that's good for that. Now we only put a little bit in, so we'll likely dry very quickly. I think I'm going to do just a little bit more on this one. Just on this outside edge. All right. Now, while we're waiting for that blue to dry, I have a little bit of this silver paint. This is more of the D&D silver prismatic paint. And what we're going to do, we're going to do just a little teeny tiny bit of edge highlighting on the guns. Just the slightest bit around the barrels to hopefully have them grab a little bit of the light. Just a little bit of that. See the difference there, kind of. It just pops a little more. What we're doing is we're just dragging the tip of the brush across the edge, and only the edge. Yeah. Just really emphasizes that metallic gun barrel. And you know, while we're playing with metallics and while we're waiting for that the blue to dry and the purple to dry, we really want this stuff to be as dry as possible before we put a glaze on it. So why don't we get just a little more here and do a little more of the good old gunmetal. So I want to do a little bit more to those sidearms and a little bit more to the LRMs. I'm not talking about repainting the whole thing. I just want to put a little bit of a highlight on them. You know, look at the rear laser. I'm tempted. I'm so tempted to do some silver highlighting on it. You know, I think this, we're not going to highlight the gun barrel. What we're going to highlight is the edge. The edge of the housing itself. You know, again, to create more definition. So it really picks up that light and says, hey, there's an edge here. All right. Okay, let's get a bit of water on this gunmetal. Get those metal particles moving a little more freely. All right. It's looking good. Okay, so what we're gonna do, just a little line down here. This barrel got a good amount of that black liner, and I just want to bring the metal back up. A little more here as well. Might even do a bit of that silver there. Yeah, let's do it. Why not? are a little more rounded than edged, but that's okay. It'll still help break up that look. Now we're just going to do just the teeniest, tiniest little line down the barrel. And for that side too. Just kind of driving home, the difference here. And again, it's the finish of the color that makes all the difference. The fact that it's silver is really what makes it stand out. Okay, so we've given it a little bit of time to dry now. After having another another family emergency. So we're going to move on. You can see, I don't know how well you can see, because it is a very dark purple, even with that blue line underneath. But we are going to move on now to the glaze. And, again, I picked this stuff up, just looked interesting. I was looking for different ways to create that reflective effect on the cockpits. And, I think what I like about these glazes, this folk art dragonfly glaze, is it's the color shifting property in it. So you have a little bit of flexibility in what different the different cockpits you might want to put on a unit. And I think I might have one more. Yeah. This one is a gold glaze. Like a black gold, black flash. That's kind of a fun one too. I don't have any of the units with that around me, but we might do one of those later on. So let's take, here we go. We're going to take the violet, blue, green shift and let's shift to a wider angle here. And you gotta, this stuff comes out very thick. And we'll put it in, we'll go in here. And that's kind of that's a generous amount. You definitely won't need that much. That is a very generous amount, but we'll work with it. I'm going to take a little bit of our water. I'm going to just, now I do like to dilute this stuff down. I think that it goes on better and you get a better effect if you do more than one coat. But with the coats that you do, you have them be a little bit thinner. Working with a very small area, like a cockpit, you usually won't have a ton of space to spread around a big glob. It's much better to take a little bit on your brush, a very small amount. Man, this is still very thick. Just take a little bit on your brush, a small amount on your brush, and just get a little bit on there at a time. You can always add more. And it's not as fast. It's just Just slopping it on there with one go and hoping it dries right. But, you know, it's okay to take your time. Okay, now since we're going to be doing some detail work, get out, we're going to use the fine tip brush. I'm working with Cockpits and all this detail work. It's basically the only brush I use. And if it ever gets worn out, we'll just cut another one. Alright, so we're going to do this just for a little stability. And we're just going to dab it on there. And you can see, you can already see it just gives it that shine. Partially because it's still wet. And, you know, it also, I should note that the lights that I use here, there are a lot of different tiny LED lights all around. Let's see if I can get a good shot of it. Yeah, you know, all around this rig. So there's a lot of different light sources that could be reflecting at any time. So when when you're working under a paint light system, it can be very, very reflective, but sometimes it's good to take the unit and see how it's going to look under, you know, a single point of light, you know, depending on how you like to play the game. So yeah, it's a subtle thing, you know, throwing a little bit of glaze on here, so, you know, don't feel like you have to do it. You can get some really amazing effects with different approaches, but I like it. And I also think, you know, with when you're working with a very with a white color scheme, it's nice to have some accents of color that really pop it a little bit more, break it up. And I don't know, some of you may notice I did do a little bit of touch up on the dragon detail wrapping around the leg. In case anyone sees that, I'm gonna say I like to paint. I like to paint, and you know, having an opportunity to do a little bit of touch up, couldn't help myself. I don't always have the ability to film, but you know, I had a second to do some painting, and I just thought it needed it. A little more definition in the lighter green scaling, and also because of how I had been holding the unit like this, my thumb had rubbed off some of the green on the ankle, and also some of the white on this side. So just a little bit of touch up, and you know, as you get more comfortable with paint, it becomes, you know, just a very easy thing to do. You see, you just you know, I just want to clean that up a little bit, a little touch up here and there, but still overall got a nice weathered look to it. Yeah. Our weapon systems. All right. while we're waiting, do a little comparison with our other guys. And let's do a little check with the black light. Let's try this. Yeah, you can see it pretty well. We got a little bit of a glow coming from the cockpit. And the weapons all have a nice, fun glow to them. Oddly enough, the striping on the dragon's picking up a little bit of, it's fluorescing a little bit here. That's kind of fun. Not too much, just looks more like a paint effect. Yeah, I may have to go back and touch up the other guys and get that same effect. That's really fun. And you can see we've got the purple there. Let's take a look at some Jumpjets too. Yeah, look at that. That's nice. And the cockpit. Yeah, see, we're getting a little bit of glow in there. That's fun. You know, one of my long-term projects, I wanted to build a game table that has modular terrain in it. And the ability to do different light effects. One of which being black light to, you know, simulate a match at night. This is the long-term project plan that I've got. Put some lights back on here. Here we go. So, I think that is coming along very nicely. But yeah, I was not expecting the green in the dragon to fluoresce like that. That was an interesting effect. And I think could be fun for, it could be a fun thing to do on the other guys. I don't know, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I should make that change and go back and touch up the older units so they all have a little bit of glow to the dragon onto the black light. Okay, and we're going to do one more coat with this. I have to say I'm a little hesitant. I think we did have a nice effect going under the black light. Oh, that's good. You know, but ultimately we'll be using this unit under normal light far more often than we'll be using it under a black light. So, you know, that is part of the fun of this challenge, trying to use, you know, just a couple dollars of different types of paint to have a, you know, an interesting paint scheme on the units, and one that's interesting in more than one way. You know, in a regular light, under black light. Okay, so I think that about does it for this guy. You know, we got some basing to do still. You know, we're going to go ahead and let this glaze dry, but I think you know, I'm pretty happy with how he's looking right now. Those jump jets, I like how that looks under the black light, the way it glows. All right, well, hope you've enjoyed this, and tune in. Hope to see you in the next one.